That one, you will find strychnine-based poisons. Rat bars generally have that, where if a gopher eats it, and then a coyote or bobcat or your dog comes and eats the gopher, it keeps killing down the line. It never stops. So we only sell zinc-based products, and so zinc kills a thing that eats it, but then it doesn't keep killing. So a coyote could come in and eat that gopher, pack rat, or whatever it is, and they won't be killed. They won't be harmed. So I think that's important. Just mainly because I've killed a family cat before. Hey, that's bad. I've got daughters at home. I killed the family cat. I still hear about that. So as soon as, the next day we no longer sold strychnine products. This was years ago. But what I didn't realize that mice go into gopher runs too. And so the mice had gotten into where the bait was. And then they came up, they're not going to sleep there obviously. So he's going back up down the driveway back home. And then he died in the driveway, and the cat ate the mouse. And then I had a dead cat in the driveway afterwards. Very bad. I'm almost going to tears now. Anyway, we're moving on. I'll tell you afterwards. A couple things that are showing up right now. Aphids. Right now, if you've got pine trees, you should watch that. Aphids will not kill your tree. They'll just defoliate it and try to kill it. So the plant will probably recover. But and the indication is I was mountain biking up in the forest, just up in Highland Pines, parked underneath the pine trees. There's the ponderosas. And by the time I got back, the truck had little spots of sap all over it. That's aphids in the trees. Sometimes if you've got rock lawns underneath it, you'll see the rocks underneath the pine will look kind of glossy, look kind of wet. Or sometimes the leaves or plants underneath that will look kind of wet. Watch that. If you've got aphids, don't let them keep going. They're so bad this year, they're almost epidemic. They're not quite to biblical proportions, but they're one step removed. So it's pretty bad. It's as bad as I've ever seen it. Anything will kill an aphid. Spray up in the tree with oils, the all-season spray oil. We'll wipe them right out. If it's a small plant, the home harvest, we make an organic neem oil thing that will wipe. Anything will kill an aphid. Just be aware what to look for. Pinyon pines. Pinyon pine scale. Actually, all the pines. Pines are really being hit this year. So pinyon pine scale is really bad if you're up in that area. Some of you bought your house because the pinyon pine was so majestic that it's a centerpiece in the entire landscape. If you were to lose that, it would devalue your house. Be really careful of that. Scale will definitely kill the tree. If left unchecked, the tree will die within 2-3 years. What to look for? At the base of the tree, you'll see little cottony masses, egg masses. They'll be white with little yellow dots in it, yellow to black. Look for those. And the main crotches, down towards the main branching or lower, that's where you'll see those. Not always though, sometimes. So look for those. If you see them, collect them, give them to neighbors you don't like, give them to friends that are estranged, get them off your property. I usually throw them in the trash can and get them to the dump. You don't want, that's the eggs, that's the next generation. Also, on the needles, sometimes you'll see a needle. Actually, let's just draw this out so you can see it. We'll supersize it. If you've got a pine needle coming out, this is way too big. Usually a pinyon pine's like this long, but you'll see little dots. It's like someone took a number 2 pencil or something and just kind of put a little dot on there. Each one of those dots is a scale, an individual insect. They pierce the needle, suck the life out of it, and the needle literally will dry up and fall off. It'll get so bad in that the tree will literally be left with no foliage and the tree starves to death because it can no longer make photosynthesis. That's how the plant dies. It literally starves. The scale sucked all the life out of it. If you've got scale, you need to get on this. You need to spray it. You need to do something. Now, I like the death and decay. I like all the science. I actually like the chemistry, and I liked physics in high school. I like astronomy. I like all the science. So I like playing with all the molecules. This is plant protectors, something that we put together for pinyon pine scale, bark beetle, Ips beetle, things that burrow or suck on pine trees. This is what this is for. This is a systemic. That is, you mix it up in a watering can, you pour it right at the base of the tree, the plant will absorb it, and then taint the sap so that when that next scale pierces the needle, sucks the sap out, it's tainted, and it kills them. Okay, but it's under the bark level. It's at the cambium wood level. Just underneath the bark is the living tissue that they're really after. It's very sweet. So they're trying to get to that. And so bark beetle gets into your pine trees, burrows a hole, and you'll see some sap gooing out. The sap bubbles. That's bark beetle. Flathead borer is a great big beetle that kind of burrows into the big hole. There's several of these things. This is what you use for that. One application lasts a year. I'm going to throw it out there, not go into detail. I just want you to put it on your radar going, oh, Ken mentioned something. I took this note down on scale. I should go walk the property and look. So just put that on. Be interactive with your landscape. Don't ignore it. It will not take care of itself. I know it's been growing there for 100 years. That's before your entire neighborhood went up. All the housetops and asphalt, so we got this island effect of heat warming. I don't know about global warming, but I know about neighborhood warming. You can change your environment just by patios going in, or the plants are stressed. This will keep them from being, this will help maintain their health, okay? Yes? This, well, you read the directions and I won't go on, so we keep the film going, yeah.
Real quick, can you go back, what do we get rid of the aphids with?
Aphids would be a spray usually. This would work on aphids too, but the systemics, they travel about a foot a day. So if it's a big 20-foot tree, it might take 3 weeks before it actually gets up to the structure of the tree. So the long-term effect that's good, the systemics, but you're probably using a hose-in sprayer and an oil. The all-season spray oil is what I would use because it's the most natural, easiest, healthiest, safest. I would use that to just spray the foliage as best I could. Again, you're trying to knock the numbers back. I don't mind a few aphids. It's when the tree is loaded up and it's just being sucked dry, that's the problem. Okay, one last question, move on.
What about these water?
You could do soapy water kind of stuff. So he said, can I kill aphids with soapy water? Yes. I don't recommend that for myself because it's depending on what kind of soap, if it's scented, if you get it too much. I've had more customers burn plants and do benefits to plants. So I only do things off the shelf. That's just me. There is no food in your soil. None. Every time I've seen a soil test, we're doing some soil tests for you. I can tell you what it'll be no nitrogen. There'll be a little bit of phosphorus, a lot of potash, and the pH will be off the charts. Let me tell you why it comes out like this every single time. We don't have any topsoil. You know, the Midwest, you've got topsoil that's like feet thick. It all holds up moisture, and then you've actually got leaf molds and mushroom molds. There's this cycle of foliage coming down and composting and coming back and rebirth, and we don't have any of that. We have wind and sun that blows off. We have midsummer monsoons that take all of your topsoil and make it flush down the creek sides. It just gets lifted and goes down. You don't have enough soil to really keep things going. So you'll find that you planted that thing, and here's a classic. The lilacs are spectacular this year. The plants you're seeing that have purple flowers right now, super fragrant. Yeah, this guy. It's got this guy. These are spectacular. The common problem I have with new folks is I bought a lilac. It bloomed the first 2 years. I've been there 7 years. It hasn't bloomed since. The only reason that will happen is the plant does not have enough food to form the flowers. It takes a lot of energy to form that flower. It doesn't have enough food to do that. If you simply start fertilizing more often, all of a sudden those things will be spectacular. I hear the same thing with wisteria. My wisteria was beautiful, now it hasn't bloomed, that's why. Fruit trees, I had fruit the first 2 years, now I haven't had fruit since. They always blame it on the frost. Yet all your neighbors have fruit. Huh, why? You didn't just get frost, it's food. It's coming out. Food is really, really important, okay? All right, so what kind of food? Now, I can tell you in the industry, Plant foods are a game. At one point I was selling geranium food, pansy food, I had an evergreen food, I had a rose food, I had an all-purpose food, I had ammonium sulfate, nitrate, I had like a dozen different foods. You know why they do that to you? So you'll buy more food. That's the only reason. Food is food. Now, we do get into the idiosyncrasies. There's synthetic foods or man-made foods. They're basically petroleum-based products. They're chucking that on. That'd be your turf builder, that kind of stuff. Okay, it's very quick release. Usually within 2-3 weeks, it's all released and it's gone. But it's granular, okay? Or you've got your more organic foods. Here's my take on foods. I'm going to borrow this chair. Is someone sitting there?
No, I meant over.
Would you mind if I just kind of take that, just so I can set it up there and kind of take the weight off? And keep it for the camera right here. Okay, here's my take on food. Don't use synthetic foods. Okay, we need to get off the turf builder and the Miracle Grow and all that stuff. And here's why. We're all drinking groundwater. Even the water coming out of your faucet, your own city water, the well is out in Chino or someplace. They've got several wells around where all of us are pumping the water out of the ground and then shoot all of us. Okay? If you have a larger property, let's say Williamson Valley or out in the county, we actually have wells. We're actually doing our own well. But all of us are dealing with groundwater. The last thing we want is a lot of 5 more truckloads of synthetic fertilizer out there where it gets picked up, gets carried into the waterways. We can taint our water. If you've been on a well at all, you kind of know, you kind of are sensitive to that. You watch that. I think it's more responsible for us, at least for my staff and my customer, how we believe, organics, all naturals. Here's why, too. First of all, they're lower in nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. And they can be lower because they're there longer. The plants actually use all of the food up. None of it is wasted. Over half of his synthetic food is picked up by the water and just carried off. It's not even used. I know it's 2100. It's a lot of nitrogen, but the plant only uses, half of it, if that much. The rest of it goes off someplace. Don't ask me where, but it's someplace. The plant does not use this all. We've got science to prove this. Organics you can put on there and it lasts longer and the plants can pick up more of it. Okay? This is hard for you engineers to figure out. You think bigger the numbers, you bankers, nurses, you know who you are, you number people. The bigger the number, the better. Plus we're Americans, more. Not necessarily. It's all about use. How much can the plant use? And so this is our main food. The main ingredient's cottonseed meal. For you rosarians, you know cottonseed meal is what you give roses. If you're going to enter rose into the fair because you want big bright colors and fragrance, that's what you give it. So its main ingredient's cottonseed meal. Also, it makes the soil more acidic. So we'll get into that for just a second. Bird guano is the other one. So this got poop in a bag. It has an earthy smell. It's granulated, it's dried, it's clean, but it has some poop, okay? But it's good. It's also got iron and sulfur, which makes things more acidic. All purpose. You could use that on your fruit trees. You can use it on your lawn, the best lawn food you've ever seen. You can use it on your evergreens. Evergreens love more acidic foods, so it makes them really bright and green. I think you can use one food and you're done for all the seasons. Now it's about frequency. How often should I use it? The beauty with organics, you put it on once and for the next 3 months, every time you water, every time it rains, you get a little release of food. So it's a much longer release. So you're less likely to burn things. We've all spilled some fertilizer and had the leaves burn or the lawn burn out. That's because the nitrogen released too fast, and so it burned the foliage. And your water is the enemy. This is something you really want to write down. The pH of your water is very high. And here's why. We're all dealing with groundwater. And so I just tested. I took our fancy commercial pH gauge and I took it home to test the water. It was 9.0. That means you've had pools and spas. It goes from 0 to 10. That's virtually sterile. It's very alkaline. And so you've got to try to correct. The water is the issue. Every time you water, the soil will naturally come up to whatever the water is. And so this is unique to a little bubble here in the Southwest. mainly the mountains of Arizona, that we're very alkaline. Everyone else in the country is acidic. So you'll get on HGTV, you'll read Fine Garden magazine, they'll say, oh, you want to add lime to your soil. Lime sweetens the soil. Have you heard that? Yeah. So don't ever do that here. You'll kill everything. I know, I've tried it. So School of Hard Knocks, how we learn, right? You want to do just the opposite of what the national guys tell you to do. It's because of here. Just the opposite would be, thank you, Ella. You can put it on that cart right there. Whoever's got the tomatoes there, we'll come back at it. You got them all done?
There's two more that I'm still letting it settle out a little bit, but it's looking like they're going to have the highest pHs of all.
I love it. I do it. Thank you. You're an awesome woman. Right on. Great. So Ella's, she is our pH guru. If you want to talk soil pHs, she's the gal because she's done dozens and dozens of these. Anyway, she'll get back here. So maybe we'll try to share some of that so the rest of you can hear what our other soils are like, and you'll see it's high pH every time. It's high pH. So in my own soils, my own plant, maybe I'll attach that to you, how to fertilize. I'll send that handout to you as well. We're fertilizing at least 3 times a year with this all-purpose plant food. Or a food, you can pick your own food. If you're really into organics, you're blending your own anyway. We just wanted to take the guesswork out of it and blend it for you. You're fertilizing spring, summer, and fall. If you're doing holidays, it'd be Easter, 4th of July, Halloween. You want to fertilize 3 times a year. Okay, with I think at least if you're doing synthetics, at least a slow release fertilizer or an organic. You just want to do it spring, summer, and fall. If you got a lot of evergreens, I would say also do New Year's. It'll keep them green. Right now we have a lot of winter chlorosis, yellowing of the foliage. So you see your red tip photinias, they're not green with red tips, they're yellow with off muted reds. That's because the pH got too high and didn't have enough food. So that's just 3 times a year, do that. Also for myself, every spring, I buy the biggest bag of soil sulfur. You can buy sulfur direct, little pellets, and I sprinkle that over everything. Just because my water's at 9.0. And I noticed that it changes. I'm on city water. The water changes, the pH, depending on which well the city is pumping the water from. They'll change that out. They change up which well, which tank they're bringing things from. So it can flex on you. The wells in Skull Valley, we had 3-inch, 90 gallons per minute. These are agricultural wells. They came in the high 8s all the time. So even if you got your own well, actually the own wells are even worse. They seem to be higher in pH. But just watch that. That'll be unique. As a new fruit person, you'll find your plants don't bloom as well, or they turn yellow on you in midsummer. The reason is the pH went too high. It's not iron, the pH went too high. The iron is naturally sitting there in our ground. We have a lot of it here. But if the pH goes up too high, it locks up all the minerals, so that it's there, but the plant can't get to it. As soon as you bring the pH down, it greens up just like, within days, greens up just like that. Okay? Yes? Foliar feeding. Okay, so her question was, what about foliar feeding? And there's 2 different schools of thought on that. Some say plants can't absorb nutrients through the foliage. Some say they only get it through the roots. Some say they need foliar spraying. I don't know I haven't seen the science approve one or the other. I kind of go in between, more common sense. I'm an old farm boy. Really, I think if you get this is a granular. You're supposed to sprinkle it on the ground. I don't work mine in. I chuck and go. I got my little handheld spreader. I just go and I walk off and I'm paddle boarding on Watson. Or I'm mountain biking. I'm doing something fun, not fertilizing. Fertilizing is not fun. Working in the ground is not fun. If you're really a gardener, you are allowed to take the time to work your fertilizer in the ground. Mine will be just as pretty, and I just chucked it and ran off. Okay? So I just chuck and go. The water will eventually get it in the ground. The next question is going to be, oh, well, my drip emitters only come out here and here. Shouldn't I put it all right there? We get 19 inches of rain a year here. 19 inches. That's a lot. That's 100 years of data. 19 inches. The average That means you are going to get rain. It's just a matter of time. The rain will be your friend and get it in the ground. Let the rain do the work. Now, here's a funny thing about averages. Some years, 50 of those years, we got 25 inches of rain. And bridges are literally washed out. It is dangerous. Things flash floods everywhere. It is chaos when that happens. And it will happen again. The other 50 years, you only got 14 inches of rain. And everyone goes off, goes, oh, we're going to all die, we're running out of water. No, we aren't. We get 19 inches, 100 years of data, 19 inches. Some years it's dry, some years it's wet. Just be ready and plant for the wet seasons so that your plants can live. Otherwise, you train them to live on drought. Then all of a sudden we come back and the pendulum swings and the plants drown. That's why you want to make sure you're planting correctly. I made this food. This is a water-soluble food. This would be a foliar feed or root feed. This is like a Miracle Grow. Let me just step on my soapbox for a minute. Don't use Miracle Grow. This stuff is crap in a bottle. Oh, can I say that on film? Don't use the MG fertilizer, okay? The big green, blue box. You know which one. #1 seller in the country. It's a salt-based fertilizer. It's garbage. We've got high minerals in our water already. Then you're adding a high mineral fertilizer and wondering why your plants are suffering. I had so many customers struggling with using that fertilizer, I just stopped selling it. But I'm not going to subject my customers to it. Salt is not, and you'll see at the base of the of your containers, you'll see this chunky white buildup. That's the mineral leaching out. That clogs up your soil. Don't use it. Move on. This is one that we made for as a substitute. It's not salt-based. It's very high phosphorus. We call it flower power. 54. It's 54% phosphorus. Remember, nitrogen, phosphorus, potash. Nitrogen, green growth. Phosphorus is blooms and roots and fruits. Potash is disease resistance, thickness of leaf, stem sturdiness, branch structures. It's just hardiness. So this is mainly phosphorus. The reason I made this is I had more customers taking home these pretty flower baskets. They'd have them at home for a month and then it would stop blooming. When it was so pretty when it was at your place, I don't know what I'm doing. My thumbs are brown. It's food. These are very high feeding flowers. Put a flower on and have it bloom. It takes a lot of energy. And it takes phosphorus, that middle number. This is 54% phosphorus and it's liquid. So the plant can access it right now. So if you do a lot of color, if you're a flower grower, this is a great one for that. You're going to use it every 2 weeks. You're going to add it to your water and just water things in. So anyway, those are the two foods. Really, those are the only two foods we sell. I do have okay, let's move to plants. I could go on food and science and molecules and bugs because that's what I like. Let's go over some plant collections, shall we? So let's start with what everyone thinks Arizona is. Okay, watch that jumping cactus there. That's everyone thinks they've got Arizona envy or something. They moved from wherever and they go, I just want cactus. Show me your cactus collection. Well, we don't have cactus collections. Cactus don't grow up here. We have so few. The desert folks seem to really want their cactus, and they'll buy cactus down there because there's tons of them. They bring them up here, and then about Thanksgiving, they turn to a black mush, melt over, and die. Because most cactus have no antifreeze in them. They can't go below 32 degrees, or they just freeze and they die off. This happens to be a cholla. It grows any place. That's also called a jumping cactus. It is funky looking. It just looks, it's a great little cactus. We also have prickly pears. There's different types of prickly pear. They grow naturally up here. We'll have some little barrel cactus or little hedgehogs. But really, that's the few that you'll be able to grow here. Other than that, we have more yuccas. Yuccas do really great up here. From the Joshua trees, this happens to be the #1 seller. This is red yucca. It gets about, 2-3 feet tall, but then the flowers are above that. And it will bloom from now through November. Amazing bloomer. Puts little seed heads on there. Just a great little plant. Very, very drought hardy. Native, really a lot of natives. We sell a lot of different types of yuccas. I just brought this one for you all because it's the #1 seller. You'll see them every place. They're starting to elongate their red flowers. Also comes in yellow. Also I have a dwarf one, a new one called Brake Light Yucca. It's a dwarf of this, and the red is very intense, like a brake light of your car. It's that same kind of color. Most of these are more salmon colored. So the reason these are so water efficient, you can see the foliage. It kind of has this shape to it. It catches the water and then brings it to the center section of the plant. So it takes this much space to bring naturally occurring water into the base of the tree or the plant. Be careful with this when you're fertilizing. If you're using it all-purpose, make sure you don't put fertilizer on the foliage because it will also bring it all to the heart of the plant. So you want to make sure you get underneath this foliage and sprinkle it out here. Okay. This is manzanita. This is the big one that grows. We sell several different types of manzanita. Mainly it's Connect. It's a ground cover manzanita. And then this is the regular big Howard McMinn's manzanita. Again, red bark, evergreen foliage, little bell-shaped flower. I cannot grow this in my own yard. I've tried 5 times. Now generally if I'm helping you, I got Ken's 2 strikes and you're out theory, but me, I own a garden center. So I got to try it. I'm also a bonehead, so I got to try it more than once. My soil is too thick for this. This is too drought hardy for my soil. I've got very heavy clay soil. I'm on a north slope. And no matter how much I mended this, I overwatered every single one. I've given up. So some of you will try to plant in a certain hole and it dies. Try it one more time. See if you can get it to grow. Maybe dig it a little wider, a little deeper, increase your drainage. But if a second thing dies in that same hole, literally you will have some places in your yard, nothing will grow. If you move just 10 feet over, it doesn't take much, just a few feet. All of a sudden it will start growing there, it just won't grow here. And I don't know why, it just won't. Just don't fight it. Just work with nature and move the hole. I think there's a rock shelf, there's a caliche layer, something that's underneath. There's a soil band underneath there somewhere that you don't see. It's not allowing the roots to take, and that's why. Okay. Where else am I at? If you have gophers, this is called gopher plant. No, you can't plant just one of these and gophers stay away from your yard. It doesn't work that way. The internet will tell you that. Google says, oh yeah, the gopher plant keeps all gophers away. No, it doesn't. I've seen gophers pop up right here. So, but it is pretty, and it is drought hardy. It gets a real pretty yellow foliage to it. It's just funky. It screams Arizona. It's as close to this as I can get without thorns. This you don't even want to be close to. I'm nervous even picking it up. And then this thing, you can just walk, you can just touch it. It's an evergreen. Isn't that funky? So just a good color, Arizona blue. And then this one is a century plant, a good native. This grows wild up on the Bradshaws. This is the one with that flower that grows up like 10 feet tall. That's this one. And they say that it blooms only once a century. It's not true. Not every couple of decades it'll start to bloom. It just seems like it's been a century. But really, there's several varieties that it'll finally cook. This will actually turn into this great big plant. So, but good agaves do really well. Not all agaves do well though. Some of your desert varieties will freeze out. You got to have the hardiest varieties. We are a zone 7. Actually, I would say we're a zone 6, but everyone else thinks we're zone 7. I think what happens about every 10 years, we have a cycle of cold that goes down to sub-zero. So zone 6 is plants can go below 0. Zone 7 is plants can go to 0. I think we're a zone 6, but we flirt heavily with zone 7. Almost to the point where we get a little cocky going, global warming, we're no longer a zone 6. Well, I guarantee you, eventually, in the next 10 years, we're going to go sub-zero and it'll kill off all those zone 7 plants, and you'll have to replace them. Anyway, it's just experience I've seen over the years. This is one that's starting to bloom all around town. It looks beautiful, But it's super. It's part of our Western Native series. This is doggone it. What was the name of this thing? You know, it's just this rose. What is it? Rock rose. There we go. Thank you. Brain fart. It's bad when you got botanic Latin names going through and you can't convert to common. This is just a low growing, maybe 3 foot high. This is really, really mature for a rock rose. But it just does this for a crazy long time, and it's just drought hardy. This is one you can get it started. In a couple of years, you can take that drip emitter that was watering it, bend it back, and not water it again. Just cut it off, and it would go by itself. All of these plants we just talked about are part of that native, natural, get it started and then cut it off of water. Natives, you can't just plant them and walk away. You need to plant them and get them rooted first, then you walk away. They're very dependent on you. When you first plant this thing, all the roots are right here. We need to get the roots out before you can turn off the irrigation or really cut back. So that's a myth that some folks, newbies, make. They plant it going out, it's a native, it'll grow by itself. Not at first, it's dependent on you. Okay? That's a native. Oh, here's the last one. Spanish brooms, Scotch brooms, if it has the word broom in it, means really tough. So these don't really have foliage. You notice all the stems are green. So it creates photosynthesis. Actually, through the structure, the branches can actually have the ability to create photosynthesis. It does have little tiny, tiny leaves, but very insignificant. So it's not exposed to any amount of the air, so it doesn't perspire very much, which means it's very drought hardy. This one I brought for you because it has a new color. It's kind of a red with a yellow leaf. Normally they're yellow. In your neighborhood you've seen them yellow. This one just happens to be red, just a new variety. What is the variety of that? This is called a Lena Scotch broom.
Is that what you probably did spread?
This one, as far as reseeding, coming up other places, the Scotch broom is the one that is a weed. Let's see, no, the Spanish broom, the big one, is the weed. The Scotch broom are less invasive. They're tighter, they're smaller, they're easier to take care of, they last longer. So I'd look at that one if you have a problem with that. Okay. Let's go to the traditional blend. That's this one. And these are more your Midwestern kind of things, or Californians. You know what this is. Yeah, Nandina or heavenly bamboo. This is a great little plant. It actually does very well. And deer don't eat this. Rabbits don't eat this. It looks delicate. It looks delicious. I want a little ranch dressing, put a little bit on there and have some myself, but they don't like to eat it. And tough. It looks delicate, it's just really tough. I think it's because it has real waxy leaf to it. So because the wax and coated leaf, it doesn't perspire like some of the other more delicate leaves. Same thing with this. This is euonymus. We grow a lot of euonymus here. Again, it looks delicate, but it's got a very heavy waxy leaf. This is an evergreen, or this would be ever gold. Also comes in silver, comes in regular green. This is a big one. You create a hedge out of it, screen hot tubs. This gets bigger than you and I, and as wide, very thick and very bright. But I brought them together because look how good purple and gold looks together. Just a natural, they were companions to each other. Put them in the same drip system, they would just shine. Okay. This is one that we do a lot of because we are in pine forest. So we grow spruce trees. We actually grow spruce and pine better than we do cactus. There's only a couple of varieties of cacti that we can use, but there's dozens and dozens of varieties of spruce. This happens to be a globe spruce or bird nest spruce. It just turns into a big ball. It is related to the Colorado spruce that we're kind of famous for. There's very majestic varieties around. Old specimens, very tall, very silver, very just layered, perfect. Everyone calls them the Christmas tree. You don't know the name, the one that looks like a Christmas tree. You go, oh yeah, I know which one, let's show you. It's always a Colorado spruce. We also have one called, it's the centennial plant. We turned 100 years a couple of years ago. We were planting deodar cedars all around town. This is a very fast growing evergreen. Kind of looks like a spruce, only the big swooping branches, everything's bigger about it. It's like Arizona style. It grows 80 feet tall, fast growing, 2-3 feet a year, big swooping branches to 25 feet wide. It's actually too big a plant for most of us. But if you've got a half acre and you're that corner over there, a lot of folks will make the mistake, they'll put this deodar cedar right in the front entrance, and all of a sudden 5 years later it's encroaching on the driveway now. It's just too big. Place them in the right place. Okay? Spruce do really, really well. And then lastly, get all these, well, I guess I got two lastlies. This is again a broom, so it's drought hardy. It smells. If you get a chance, smell it.